All right, Ken, let me put down the P38 and let's move on to the next handgun. Before we do that, remember, World War II started in early September 1939. We've mainly talked about German handguns designed and developed prior to World War II. Now, this one was really put into widespread service at the early part of World War II, but now we got to get the captured guns into the mix. And the first country invaded in Europe was Poland.
Bingo.
And hence the next handgun?
Yeah, the Polish Radom, the P35. The Poles in about 1935 put this gun into issue, heavily influenced by the 1911, by the way. They looked at Browning's design and realized it was a great feature. Their engineers, the designers came up with some modification of the gun. Remember, in that era, in a lot of countries, it was the cavalry that set the specs for pistols. And as the case was in Poland, they basically looked at the pistol design that they wanted would be ideal for the cavalry soldier. For example, they adopted the grip safety of the 1911. You know, 8-round single stack magazine. Unfortunately, you could not disassemble it to clean. A real weakness in this pistol.
Yep. Now, when I look at this gun, cool gun, the sights jump out at me. If anything, they are the worst sights on any of the guns on this table.
Kind of gets back to that cavalry attitude, you know, saber in one hand, pistol in the other. They were actually engaging targets at very close range. They didn't really think forward like the Germans did by improving the sight
The
picture.
P38, and that brings up the real teaching point in here. When you think World War II handguns, by and large, and people using them in combat, they were essentially point shooting with the guns.
Bingo. Yeah,
Yep.
hallelujah.
Cool. Radom's cool gun, and if you don't have it in your serious World War II handgun collection, you really should.
Big mistake.
Now, everybody should know this next one. Remember, the Germans went into the lowlands, including Belgium.
Belgium. And when they overran the great FN works, and they obviously ran into this pistol, the great, what we know is the P35 Browning. Interestingly, this was referred even to the Germans as the P35. This pistol actually had a different code. If I remember correctly, it was something like Pistol 640 or something. Bottom line is, in many ways, one of the more advanced guns of World War II. You know, the pistol was started by John Browning. He passed away in 1927, and Dion Siov, the great FN designer, basically finished the gun. It's more affected by his work than really John Browning's. And Dion Siov also designed a few other guns for FN.
Yeah, FNFAL, and of course the Mag 58.
Yeah, hallelujah. So, good pistol. And the unique thing about this pistol that really set it apart from everything else is the capacity of the magazine.
Yeah, this dual stack magazine, when in the single position feed, it has went on to influence virtually every other double stack magazine on any handgun after that. Notable exception I can think of is the P7M13.
Yep.
Other than that, the Glock, the SIG P226, the Beretta, I mean, right down the line. If it has a double stack magazine, it almost invariably uses the magazine from the Browning High Power.
Yeah, copied from the Browning High Power. You know, another thing, you know, everybody talking about this pistol has a manual safety on it, but it's very small and very hard to use, and people don't understand. Again, it was designed not to be carried cocked and locked. Almost all service pistols in World War II were carried basically conditions where you drew the pistol, worked the slide, and fired it. The safety was there on the basis if I had to put the gun in my holster quickly, I didn't have time to decock it, because it's basically an unsafe act for most folks. You can push that little safety up, stick it in your holster.
And the gun's safe.
The gun's safe.
I mean, let's face it, in a field environment, in a holster, condition 3 for the average soldier is a much safer way to carry the gun.
Right. Now, Germans use this pistol in large quantities, particularly on the Western Front. As a matter of fact, we know that since for example, the German SS procured weapons from another supply system than the Wehrmacht until later in the war, they chose the gun in large numbers. It's real popular.
They sure did. So you see a lot of SS soldiers use it, and there's actually some famous photographs during the Battle of the Bulge of some SS soldiers carrying a Browning High Power. So this gun was widely used by the SS. Overall, cool gun. When you think of the handgun that was used by both sides, that's the first one that comes to mind is the High Power. Now we also know the Germans did use the 1911 in limited numbers, but really it's the High Power that's the gun that served on both sides.
And if you look at all these pistols and their role, you could say, Larry, there are two handguns that jumped out to at the end of the war. The Luger and the Radom were basically
they were gone, right?
But there's two pistols that really stepped out to influence future handgun design. The Browning High Power, we've already talked about. The magazine was a huge factor. Combined a double action system, the way the trigger works, particular locking mechanism, and a lot of the features. These two pistols, the magazine and the High Power, double action works of the P38 really drove pistol design for the next 50 years.
Serious handgun enthusiasts, you got to have these two guns in your pile. Of course, we're gonna run them through some tests here, courtesy of my good friend and mentor, Ken Hackathorn. Stand by, I know you're digging it, we are too. Hey, thanks for watching the Vickers Tactical YouTube channel. To subscribe, click here, and to watch some of my favorite videos, click here. Have a good one, LAV out.